and we will proceed at exactly 2:10 p.m. afternoon. Hi. All right, so good afternoon from IRRI, Philippines, and to those who are watching this event online via YouTube streaming, thank you very much for joining us today. And really good afternoon to those who are here at Havener Auditorium. We hope that all of you had a wonderful time networking at our appreciation lunch earlier today. Let's get started. With the formal announcement of IRRI, as well as the CGIAR's institutional strategies, we are now looking towards turning our unified plans into action. I am Eva De Jesus, your host for today's session on Locally Rooted and Globally Connected, Shaping the Future of the CGIAR Asia-Pacific Hub. Indeed, as the title of this forum states, we are inaugurating the CGIAR Asia-Pacific Hub, which is a regionally focused platform designed to align global CGIAR innovations with the priorities of South and Southeast Asia. Today, we will be learning from the best practices of the initiative led by one of our sister CGIAR centers, the International Potato Center's Root and Tuber Crops Initiative, as we integrate it with IRRI's RISE programs to deliver food system solutions across borders. To further explain the story behind the CGIAR APAC Hub, I would like to invite on stage IRRI's Director General, Dr. Yvonne Pinto.
Good afternoon. I suspect that some people had a lot of lunch and needed to lie down afterwards. Thank you for coming back after lunch. It's my pleasure to give you a little bit of an overview of the concept of the Asia-Pacific Hub of the CGIAR. What we've done is we've called it the APAC Hub, but to be specific, it includes South Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. So those are three clear regions involved. And it is about integrating food system solutions across the region. So hopefully I can tell you a little bit more about it. And then we would like to give you several examples that are real examples that have happened in the space of probably the last couple of months that give you a flavor. That means that these are just examples on which to build, and the nature and the diversity of them will be conditioned by which centers, which countries, what are their needs, what are their interests. So just to give you a little bit of an introduction into the CGIAR's 2030 strategy, which is reflected in a new portfolio. Can someone change the slides? Okay, next one, please. Yeah, so if we look carefully at the key impact areas for the CGIAR's 2030 strategy, it falls into these 5 domains. So the CGIAR is really driving poverty reduction, livelihoods and jobs, job creation, particularly in the rural environment, often driven by farming as a sector. Nutrition, health and food security, so everything from the policy initiatives for better diets to behavior change, but also the production of products that have high nutritional value. Climate adaptation and mitigation, so adaptation by increasing the resilience of crops to their climatic constraints and the environment, but mitigation at the same time trying to ensure that we are reducing things like greenhouse gas emissions and their contribution to accelerating climate change. Environmental health and biodiversity, again, conserving biodiversity, building environmental health, driving things like healthier soils, regenerative systems, and ensuring that across all of these domains are opportunities for addressing gender equality, youth, and social inclusion. So those are the key impact domains of the CGIAR strategy. And the CGIAR strategy is made up of 8 programs. I don't know if you can read this, but breeding for tomorrow, sustainable farming, she says, I can't read those very well, better diets and nutrition, sustainable animal and aquatic foods, climate action, policy innovations, multifunctional landscapes, and food frontiers and security. So these are made up of what we call work packages, and within each of the work packages, a CG center or a combination of CG centers is delivering that package. In addition to the programs, there are accelerators, and these are to create the enabling environment in multiple ways. The most well-known of those is the gene banks. Capacity sharing is about building and learning, creating a learning institution of the CGIAR system and building capacities in the countries in which it serves. Digital transformation, which includes data, and gender equality and inclusion. So those accelerators are really to enable advances and accelerated opportunities in those areas through the support that is being given. Again, we mentioned the 5 impact areas, and one of the programs, the 9th program, is Scaling for Impact, which seeks to take all of the large-scale demonstrated successes from the programs and the accelerators and combine them to work with others to scale these successes. So if we take the APAC hub particularly, the vision for this APAC hub is to be a platform for collective action, to build continuous learning, and to have some coordination around the delivery. It's really designed to be locally rooted. That means that needs in a local context are met by innovations that may be derived from a global context, and that there is connection between the local and the global. This enables both internally cross-center collaborations, and you'll be hearing one of those a little later. It also enables cross-country collaborations, particularly where there are common crops, common ecosystems across borders, and it enables the CGIAR's knowledge and innovations not just to be available to partners, but to be aligned and applied in ways that meet the specific needs of stakeholders across regions. So when I talked about the sum of the parts earlier in terms of delivering the strategy, the concept here is, again, the sum of the integrated parts is greater than any single part by itself. So if we were to take an example which is really in the Philippines, actually we'll just go back a step. Just to reassure you, this is about creating a platform for collective action. So all CG centers will participate in this platform for the Asia-Pacific region. In terms of the management of it, a Director General from each of the centers will rotate over an 18-month period, and it will be staffed with CGIAR personnel who remain. So IRRI will continue to host the hub. The direction of the hub will change every 18 months with a different Director General from a center in the region who will play that coordination and champion role. Okay, so giving you an example, in the Philippines, this may take the form of the Department of Agriculture and their agencies collaborating closely with CGIAR centers across various outputs, for example, rice, maize, wheat, vegetables as well, livestock and fisheries, the long-standing collaboration between IRRI and Phil Rice in dealing with programs such as breeding, crop management, digital technologies, and education is a good example of one of those, but it is only one example, and the possibilities are endless. Now, for countries, they want to be able to identify who they can work with and what those global opportunities are. So that's the reverse element of the notion of the hub. In addition to that, we know a lot of these globally rooted innovations need tailoring at a local level. And so trying to understand what those local priorities are and what the local requirements are an integral part of being able to ensure that this hub will work. Another example, which I'm hopeful that you will hear more about this afternoon in the panel, is really about cross-center collaboration. So, for example, the International Potato Center is based in Peru. The headquarters are there. Simon Heck, who is the Director General, is here, and you will be hearing from him. They have extensive expertise in root and tuber crops, which contribute significantly to food and nutritional security in various Asian countries where potato, sweet potato, and cassava are important staples. Through the APAC Hub platform, the International Potato Center and others can work with agencies like the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Agricultural Research, to explore sustainable intensification, for example, of potato, in local ecologies, contributing to crop diversity and livelihoods for farmers whilst driving food and nutritional outcomes. And of course, having heard about the ADB CGIAR clearinghouse facility that we launched this morning, there are opportunities to complement this symbiotic relationship and complement strengths of local and international actors to drive the advancements, both in technology, research, and knowledge sharing, which would benefit local and global agricultural communities. In terms of the structure of the APAC Hub, the key element is to drive a systems thinking approach, which is embedded in collaboration. And you might just cast your mind back to the notion of the value of a local ecosystem and the players in that local ecosystem, and the analogy that once that ecosystem is functioning, you should actually be able to introduce a multitude of different technologies or innovations, and that system will adapt and evolve also to be able to take up additional innovations. So co-creating initiatives through CGIAR coordination based on global expertise and combining that with local knowledge can ensure that these local ecosystems have shared goals, partners, and can bring different perspectives to shape effective integrated solutions for long-term sustainable impact. So this is a little diagram to try and illustrate that. So as this CGIAR APAC Hub starts its inaugural year, IRRI is really delighted to be able to support it and excited to invite everyone to join us in this groundbreaking endeavor. And I hope you'll learn more from this as we hear more about the examples that will be shared this afternoon through the collaborations that we have. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Definitely taking collective effort to another level, whether it's global and local partnerships. Now that we know how the APAC Hub came to be, let us discuss the inspiration behind the model. To present real-world examples of effective partnerships between CGIAR centers and national or regional institutions that drive innovation and scale impact, I would like to call on Dr. Nozomi Kawarazuka to discuss the International Potato Centers project called the Root and Tuber Crops Transforming Agri-Food Systems in Asia-Pacific. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Nozomi.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, partners, and friends. It is a great honor to be with you today to celebrate 65th anniversary of IRRI. We, International Potato Center, is grateful for this opportunity to share some insight from our work. I will discuss science and innovation for roots and tuber crops in rice-based systems in Asia. We particularly acknowledge national and regional partners for their collaboration. So Asia is the largest potato and sweet potato growing region. Did you know it? Not only rice. And And also, RTC is well known as climate resilient crops. I acknowledge other RTC crops such as taro, yam, cassava, playing a very important role in this region, Asia, including Pacific, for nutrition, income, and biodiversity conservation. So this is a map of potato and rice production. Yellow area is rice only. Orange, north, is potato only. Green area is already happening potato, rice, crop rotations, 3 million hectares. And red area is potential for rice, potato, crop rotation, 33 million hectares. And for the Delta region in South Asia, thanks to new agronomic innovations, it is now possible to grow potato after rice cultivation in coastal areas. So why not SHIP and IRRI should collaborate more? So this is a typical pattern of crop rotation between potato and rice. Potato is grown in the winter dry season. However, it has been increasingly difficult to grow potato in entire 3 months period because of the climate change. So we really need to shorten this period by introducing new practice and innovations. Also, sweet potato, the down there, is considered as climate resilient, but it takes 5 months. We need 3 months so that another crop can enter into the rice cropping systems, which I'm going to talk about from the next slide. So first innovation is potato zero tillage rice straw mulching. There on the corner top, you see potato is grown inside of the rice straw instead of soil. And this method can reduce labor and agriculture input up to 50% and increase productivity up to 30% with a positive environmental impact. This has been practiced in Vietnam, Cambodia, Bangladesh, and India. And the important thing there is that it made it possible to grow potato in salinity-affected coastal region of India, Bangladesh, and also farmers can plant 2 weeks earlier. That helps to harvest earlier. And this is well known as women-friendly technology because they don't need land preparation. And harvesting, you just remove rice straws easy. Okay, so for the breeding effort for climate adaptation, there are 2 traits. First is the salt and heat-tolerant potatoes. In collaboration with Bali, Bangladesh Agriculture Research Institute, those are introduced. And women farmers really like this Aru 72 red skin. Taste is very good according to them. The right one is early maturity, 3 months instead of 5 months. Sweet potatoes already recently registered in Bangladesh, and now the final selection process in Mekong Delta of Vietnam. And for Vietnam, our partner is breeders from Mekong Delta Rice Research Institute because we want varieties that really fit into rice systems. So the last innovation I introduced is rooted apical cuttings. So this rack can accelerate early generation seed production and also reduce the crop loss from pests and diseases up to 50%. And this is very important for women and youth to create opportunity for business. Even they don't have land, but they can earn income from seed production. And also I emphasize that this needs public and private partnership to ensure this value chain of seed systems in the entire province, state, and national levels. So this is my last slide. So considering system thinking, system approaches, there are many opportunities for collaborate between rice and RTC crops. As I said in seed systems, we really need policy support for the entire agri-food systems, and we could learn from rice seed sector to integrate to RTC seed sector. And for conservation agriculture, this year IRRI and SHIP are planning to test direct seeded rice and then potato zero tillage because the DSR can also enable potato to plant earlier and then potato zero tillage, so to see the total environmental impact. Also, IRRI mechanization team is now designing a rice harvester with attachment of potato planter so that the farmers can do at the same time. And for plant health, it's management of pest and disease and weed is absolutely better if we do crop rotations. But we need evidence for that for informing policy. So this is some ideas of the collaboration for transformative actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nozomi. While you were speaking, I see some very excited, smiling faces as you talk about your presentation. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Now let us delve into the opportunities and challenges in root and tuber crops for transforming rice-based agri-food systems through our first set of panel discussions. I would like to invite the Director General of the International Potato Center, Dr. Simon Heck, on stage to moderate the first session.
Here, and I would like to invite the panelists. One of the smiling faces was mine. With colleagues like Nozomi, of course, our jobs becomes much easier. And we'll hear more about that. But back to our panel. So we've heard, I think, a lot of excellent examples and a very sound scientific basis for integration. We now want to hear also perspectives from practitioners outside research on how that makes sense to them already, what questions may be remaining, and where do they see opportunities and some challenges in taking that forward towards better policies and increased investments. We start with the first panel, and I would like to invite Ms. Julia Lapitan to join us here on stage. Julia is the head of the International Relations Sections at the Department of Agriculture at the Bureau of Agricultural Research in the Philippines. Thank you, Julia. Next, Dr. Lee Tan Tung, who is the Vice Chairman of the Vietnam Rice Association. Dr. Tun. Then from Bhutan, I would like to welcome Dr. Yonten Chamtso, the Director in the Department of Agriculture at the Ministry of Agriculture and Forests of Bhutan. Dr. Chamtso. And finally, Dr. Mercedita Sobila, who is the Center Director at the Southeast Asia Regional Center for Graduate Studies and Research in Agriculture here in the Philippines. And look forward to your perspectives on that from different countries and different types of institutions. Let me start with Julia. Julia, as the head of the International Relations Section, how do the Philippines see the priorities for roots and tuber crops under changing climates and under other types of stresses? And how do you think the CGIAR research can help you to collaborate between research and policy and other stakeholders to drive that forward?
Okay,
Julia.
thank you for that really a good question, but we are prepared for that. We are going to present some slides. Can I go to the podium and present it to you?
Yes,
Okay.
of course.
Thank you very
Very
much.
much.
So it's better for us to see what I'm talking here. And, okay. So, on behalf of our Assistant Director, Patrick Cabrera, who is attending another important engagement, I am honored to present the Bureau of Agricultural Research position on root tuber crops. I am Julia Lapitan, the Assistant Head of the Program Monitoring, Evaluation, and Linkaging Division, and concurrently a Section Head of the International Relations Section. before I go to the first slide, I would like to make a very quick introduction that this, what I'm going to present is a product of a collaborative effort of the Philippine Department of Agriculture, different agencies, plus a CGIAR, invited CGIAR. Last May 27 to 29, we had an opportunity to conduct a workshop in partnership with the International Rice Research Institute. And this workshop brought together leaders from various branches, staff bureaus, and attached agencies of the Philippine agriculture. And additionally, through IRRI, we invited representatives from agencies that are member of the CGIAR, including the IRRI, the International Livestock, the ICRASAT, the CIMIT, the World Fish, like what we have Ma'am Pinto presented a while ago, with a collaboration we started now, last week. So, and this effort was, would like to recommend, to commend our former director, which is the Deputy Director of the Deputy Director General of IRRI and Partnership, Dr. Junel Soriano. It is his effort to prepare this workshop for a more collaborative work with our partner, international partners. So start with, I have a lot of documents in my, anyway.
A lot of documents in
No,
5
not
minutes.
so much. So for background information, climate change is really an issue, serious issue globally. The impact is continuously aggravated over the years, and the Philippines is considered the most vulnerable country. In fact, based on the World Risk Index, or RWRI, the Philippines ranked at the top 1 among 193 countries. And the WRI measured disaster risk based on the 3 criteria, namely exposure to climate-related hazard, because we are all surrounded by water, islands and everything, susceptibility of the population, and coping and adaptive capacities of communities. Also, the WRI ranking of Philippines can be attributed to the nature of the country as the archipelago and its location in the typhoon path. The agriculture sector is one of the most vulnerable sector to climate change. Damage the agriculture sector by extreme weather events over the past decade have reached the estimated value of 290 billion pesos based on the report of the United Nations World Food Program in 2021. But then, last workshop, we discussed the importance. This one? Okay. We discussed the importance of root crop and tuber crops in the Philippines. The Philippines root crop, tuber crops market is an important component of the Philippine agricultural sector. It is estimated that more than 20% of the total production in the country comes from root crops such as cassava, sweet potato, taro, and yam. The leading producers are mainly small-scale farmers who cultivate these crops for subsistence and for sale in local market. Root crops and tuber crops are important with its value as food security, economic contribution, nutritional value, resilience, and medicinal and traditional use. So for the priorities of the Philippines for the RTC under climate change and food security, given the fact that the root and tuber crops have notable socio-economic importance in the country, this agricultural commodity is included in the banner program tagged as High Value Crops Development Program, or HBCDP. Due to the challenges and issues faced by the RTC, the government has set a prioritization on the following programs. 1, on climate resilient varieties, aiming to develop and scale drought, flood, and pest tolerant varieties. 2nd, diversification and resilience of cropping patterns to integrate RTCs into rice-based and upland system and promote intercropping and rotation with other crops to enhance soil fertility. Third, post-harvest processing and value addition, mainly to reduce post-harvest losses. 4, market access and livelihood support, to link smallholder RTC farmers to value chain and institutional market. And lastly, policy research and extension support to mainstream RTC to National Food Security Program and disaster resilient agriculture policy to enhance extension services.
Very good.
I think it's a very small.
Summarizing
No, yeah,
comments?
I just summarize it all.
Thank you.
So what are the potential contribution of CGIAR to support the priority areas of this in the Philippines? So, addressing the challenges posed by climate change and critical endeavor, while the Department of Agriculture in the Philippines is actively working to mitigate and adapt of this changing environment condition, external support from international research institute can provide significant leverage in coping with increasing challenges. Knowledge sharing with notable international institutions, particularly the CGIAR, can highly be beneficial. CGIAR technologies, expertise, and capacity development program can significantly bolster the Philippine effort in addressing climate change challenges in agriculture. Their initiative provides evidence-based solution tools and collaborative platforms to tailor enhanced resilience and sustainability in the agricultural system. These are the potential areas to collaborate with CGIAR with respect to RTC development program. But I still more, two more, please. How can
Very
the
quickly.
yeah.
Very quickly.
Yeah. How can CGIAR collaborate with the Philippines to achieve agriculture, food, and nutrition goals? Mode of collaboration, collaborative agriculture and fisheries research, R&D, research and development and extension, and policy analysis support towards sustainable impact, knowledge and technology sharing between among institutions, and lastly, capacity development.
Very good.
I have one more.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Just to finish this, just to complete the implementation pathways. So we need a successful achievement of this program goals hinges to its proper implementation. This requires that all collaborating partners understand and execute their defined responsibility diligently. The active participation of private agency, non-government NGOs, and the community is crucial, as their involvement significantly contribute to the project's success. And lastly, the monitoring and evaluation of CGIAR tools for tracking adoption, food security, and resilience.
Thank you very much.
To conclude, it is a conclusion. Root and tuber are indispensable to the Philippines agriculture sector, offering solutions to food security and economic challenges posed by climate change. The collaboration between the national stakeholders and international research institute is essential to bolster the resilience and sustainability of this crop. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And of course, as the CGIAR, we are very grateful to the government of the Philippines and the Department of Agriculture for hosting us for the 65 years of IRRI and for many more years now with the hub. As we heard from the DG of IRRI, the hub will be based here in Los Baños, so we continue to rely on that hospitality, and thank you for that. I also saw that you, in addition to field rice, you now have already field root crops. That's really quite impressive. So we're in the right place here. Now let us move to the next country, and that is Vietnam. Dr. Thun, we heard this morning, and of course we are aware Vietnam is a globally significant producer of rice. Now my question to you is, how do root and tuber crops fit into, and how do root and tuber crops add value to a very rice-based agricultural economy in Vietnam? Where do you see the opportunities and the challenges for that integration? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everywhere. I'm sorry, I speak English not good, so I speak Vietnamese and you change English for all. Tôi nghĩ là thứ nhất là Việt Nam là một cái quốc gia đã có rất nhiều các cái lương thực để trong nước và xuất khẩu, và Việt Nam cũng là một trong những quốc gia mà chịu ảnh hưởng của biến đổi khí hậu nhiều nhất. Tuy nhiên rằng là hiện nay khi cái xu hướng thế giới rằng là càng làm tránh các cái tác động đến biến đổi khí hậu, thì Việt Nam cũng là một trong những quốc gia cần phải tuân thủ những yếu tố này khi chúng ta thay đổi một cái hệ thống canh tác cây lương thực, vừa đáp ứng được nhu cầu của quốc gia nhưng mà cũng vừa không làm xáo trộn cái hệ thống lương thực của thế giới.
So Vietnam has known as a rice production countries, not only for domestic consumption but also for exportation. And Vietnam also is affected by climate change. And so Vietnam aligned with the global direction of making adaptation to the climate change. So we are also making effort in making solutions to adapt with the climate change, but with also to make it align with the Vietnamese government policy, but also not to change so much on the, to make a change so much in the world global food system by the climate change.
Chính vì thế là một cái hệ thống lương thực mà có đa dạng các cái loại cây trồng thì nó sẽ tạo một cái sự an toàn cho các cái vùng sản xuất ở trong một cái quốc gia nhiều hơn. Vấn đề thứ hai là hệ thống lương thực mà đa dạng thì nó sẽ tạo ra nhiều cái cơ hội cho cái người dân có cái sự chọn lựa. Và cái thứ ba nữa là khi chúng ta trồng lúa nước và chúng ta trồng sang một cái loại cây trồng cạn thì cái sự phát thải khí nhà kính nó sẽ thấp hơn và nó sẽ tác động tốt đến cái biến đổi khí hậu hơn. Và cuối cùng là trong những cái việc mà chúng ta phát triển một cái hệ thống lương thực mà gồm những cây lương thực mà nó thích ứng với nhiều cái vùng sinh thái khác nhau, cho nhiều cái đối tượng người dân khác nhau, thì nó sẽ tạo cái sinh kế đồng đều cho tất cả những người cùng tham gia vào trong việc sản xuất lương thực này.
So I would like to talk about the opportunities. So first thing is the diversification of the crop system, which is aligned matched with the ecological reasons, and it is diversified in the cultivation practices of the farmers. The second thing is opportunity to create the different choices of food for consumers, and that means it brings or create the different opportunities for food processing. The third one is the diversification is convenient for the policy makers to issue the policy which align with the climate change adaptation, and it supports the food system transformation, especially when it is not only based on the only rice-based system, and especially for the crop rotation between potatoes and rice. And the last one is for the root and tube system, it doesn't create as much emissions, greenhouse gas emission as the rice system. And for such things, it will bring a good livelihood for farmers.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Thun.
Yeah.
Do you want to add to this, or you?
Còn cái thách thức. Yes, the next. Riêng đối với cái thách thức ở trong cái hệ thống lương thực này thì chúng ta thấy rằng là nó vì nó có nhiều loại cây trồng khác nhau mà chỉ có một người canh tác thôi. Do vậy là chúng ta cần phải có những cái kỹ thuật và nó phù hợp cho cho cái đối tượng canh tác này. Vấn đề thứ hai nữa là chúng ta cần có một cái chính sách lâu dài để có thể tiêu thụ được các cái loại sản phẩm khi mà đưa ra. Vì ngoài lúa, các loại khoai thì chưa có được cái thị hiếu của người tiêu dùng. Và vấn đề thứ ba nữa là vấn đề về giống, tức là ở những cái vùng sinh thái khác nhau, ví dụ như Việt Nam, ở phía Bắc và phía Nam của Việt Nam thì hai cái vùng sản xuất lúa với hệ thống cây cối cũ này nó sẽ khác nhau, và vì thế rằng là chúng ta phải có những cái giống cho nó phù hợp với các cái vùng sinh thái này.
And my next point is about challenges. So the first challenges is it doesn't have many kind of varieties of the root and tubes system which match with the ecological reasons. That's the reason to ensure the high productivity and production efficiency. That's the reason why we need to do more research or technologies on diversified the varieties. The second thing is the food system based on rice or the root or tube system. It needs to improve the design of the system to make it match with the cultivation method. And the next one is the farmers does not have the habit to change the rice into other crops like a potato or sweet potatoes. That's the reason why it needs a long-term policy or strategies to promote the root and tube system, as well as to promote the market access for the root and tube food system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thun, from Vietnam. And in as much as these are challenges, I think that's also the reason why the CGIAR wants to work on that integration, improving the technologies, the varieties, etc. Let's move on to Bhutan and Dr. Chamso, again the director in the Department of Agriculture. Bhutan, as we know it, is a landlocked country, and we know that our root and tuber crops are important there already. From a public sector and public policy perspective, where do you see the opportunities and the challenges for promoting these root and tuber crops even more than so far in a landlocked country like Bhutan? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wonder how many of you know about Bhutan. Unlike the other countries, Bhutan probably is not known to many. Maybe I will steal about a minute with the permission from moderator to really introduce Bhutan, the country itself. It's a small country sandwiched between two giant countries, China and India. Whatever little thing that we do will not have any global sort of an impact, but I'm proud to say that we do things very uniquely. Bhutan is a country not only carbon neutral, but also a carbon negative. People are talking about climate, future, and all those things. I think we started worrying about the climate and future maybe in the years when the IRRI itself was established, 1960s ago. Our constitution protects our country to keep about 60% of forests all the time to come. We are in any development activities and program, we pursue not by the economic indicators like GDP. We pursue by something called gross national happiness. So when we develop policy, when we implement policy, we look at how it will be benefiting to our culture, social, environment. So there is no room that our policy will go wrong in terms of implicating like the greenhouse gas and all those things. Okay, so with that brief introduction of my country itself, let me get back to the question. Yes, of course, we also have a good share of problem. We have a lot of problem in agriculture, but yet, if you ask me if I am happy, yes, I am happy. We are contented. We are resource poor, but yet contented and happy people in Bhutan. Back on the roots and tuber crops, potato is the main sort of economic crop for Bhutan. It's like almost 1/4 of the population grows potato, and it contributes a significant amount of GDP to the country. And therefore, we attach a lot of importance on growing potato. But realizing, attending here and listening to experts, we see a lot of opportunities in Bhutan. We have the agricultural land in Bhutan is just about 2.5% of the geographical area, and of that, the operational area is even less. We have a lot of fallow, uncultivated arable land, and I see a lot of opportunities to expand potato because Bhutan, the climatic condition is little harsh for the crops. So therefore, most of the lands are left fallow, so we still need to take an advantage of trying to expand our crops in the arable land. And that is what I see as an opportunity in Bhutan as well. And one aspect is we also grow rice. We have around 30-40 varieties of rice in Bhutan, of which 50% or more even is from the support of IRRI, which we have in Bhutan. But we do also have a local. But the point here is we grow rice and nothing else after that. So there is also further again an opportunity to really do potato cultivation based, rice-based other crop plantation, including potato. That is one area of an opportunity that I can see. And also to proudly mention, the Bhutan environment is very clean, and therefore the soil is quite clean and fresh, with the fresh water, again supplemented by that. And therefore, I see a lot of opportunities in doing organic agriculture, including organic potato. That's one thing that I see, and that is what we are looking forward to implement. And further on, while every country promote sort of potato and root crops, but we have an ideal situation to produce seed potato, a cool, temperate season and disease-free environment. So this is another opportunity that I can see that we can be of little help to rest of the world in terms of producing a very high quality disease-free potato seed in our environment. Having said all those great opportunities, but we also have a lot of challenges, and challenges are mainly because of our efforts in being very mindful when we do the development. For example, we do a lot of environment conservation, and in doing that, our forests are pristine, as well as the fauna and flora inside it. We have a lot of wild animals, and that comes, we are trading off basically because there are a lot of human-wildlife conflict. This is one biggest issue. Almost like 30% of our crop production is lost to the wildlife. And so there is an issue with the human-wildlife conflict. We are looking after for any innovative solution as to how we can really harmoniously stay with animals and humans together. So that's one challenge. And as Simon said, we are landlocked country, so certainly we have an issue of an access to the market. We have poor logistic. We only trade with India, no one else. Of course, we are a small population. Domestic market is very small, so market access is one big problem, and therefore our production is definitely, I mean, sort of determined by the market. So we are producing very less in that sense. And yeah, I'm getting an indication to stop there. So probably if you have other questions, let's interact further. Thank you.
You seem to have a very lenient moderator here, who even gave up his microphone. But thank you so much from Bhutan, right? We saw it's, yes, you would say it's a small country, but it does have a regional role in the case of the potato economy of South Asia. It's a major producer of seed potato for the reasons mentioned. Now let's go to Dr. Mercedita Sombila, again, the director of the Southeast Asia Regional Center for Graduate Studies and Research in Agriculture. So Dr. Mercedita, from a regional perspective, right, where do you see the policy direction that countries in Asia and the Pacific should follow to promote a diversified systems of agriculture across borders and across boundaries? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, DG, for that question. And I would like to thank IRRI and all the organizers for inviting CGIAR. For those who do not know very well CGIAR, we're just, within the UPLB compound. It is the Southeast Asian Regional Center for Agriculture, for Graduate Studies and Research in Agriculture. We are one of the centers of the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization. And we do, agriculture. We assist all the member countries, Asian member countries, on developing the agriculture sector through graduate studies, training, extension, policy research, as well as dissemination of knowledge and technologies to our member countries. Now, going back to the question, we already know, we have already heard, how diversified farming is very, advantageous to, agriculture sector as a whole. Not only providing the land, higher land and labor productivity, but also, making agriculture really sustainable because of the soil and environmental benefits that it gives. But we all know this, but how come it's not being promoted, that much, or it's not being adopted that much? And so we have heard also the different challenges that went into it, including the lack of infrastructure, the lack of resources, credit, finance, the lack of technology, know-how, and even policy constraints, that hinder the full adoption of, going into diversified farming. So let me just go now directly into what are the policies that would be needed. Definitely the policies that we should be, putting in place or formulating would be policies that should enable the promotion of diversified, farming systems. One of them would be to incentivize the production, going to diversified production. Probably one of them would be to create demand for these diversified products. At CGIAR, we are now, promoting the school garden, School Plus Garden, wherein we are teaching, schools, to grow vegetables and other kinds of fruits. Not probably intercrop with rice or any other crops, but, it's really promoting the, the consumption of these other products, in addition to rice. Probably another one would be a targeted subsidies especially for small farmers that would do diversified farming depending on the environment and the conditions of their, climatic conditions, soil condition, that would really, favor diversified farming in the areas. Investment in infrastructure. We need to have the market, for the produced. So, investment in road and transportation, investment in the processing and storage facilities, because some of this could probably be, have very short, storage life. We need investment in research. There has been so much investment in many of the staple crops, but I think very limited investment in other crops, which are usually the ones that are, going for diversified farming. We need, to do the extension, investment in extension, training farmers, and particularly women farmers, youth. We know that many of our farmers are already, getting old, so we have to incentivize, provide incentives to youth. There are already digital tools, modern, facilities that, that could encourage youth to really go into, farming again. And of course, the policy itself, the government policies should really, policies that would encourage, not really, promoting one or two major crops, but also, crops that are, that can be used for diversified, farming. So I think, many others, but I think those are the critical ones. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. And thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to all the panelists for sharing their perspectives on this, I think, increasingly important aspect of integrating rice systems, rice-based systems in Asia-Pacific with other crops, including roots and tuber crops. Some have been around, as we heard from Philippines and also from Bhutan for many years and are well recognized as economically important. And they're entering also new systems. And as research partners, the CGIAR wants to support that kind of integration by being one partner to you, working across our different crop mandates in the different centers. So thank you very much, and we look forward to the continued collaboration under the new APAC hub. Thank you again. All right, I think I will just continue from here. Now I have to somehow make up for the time we lost. Or I lost by being very accommodating. I think you agree it was very much worthwhile listening to our colleagues. We want to move now to a second panel that will be talking less about the technical underpinnings of this integration, more about partnerships and collaboration. And I had a few slides to get us started, which I will present in a kind of very succinct way, if they can be projected now. And then we'll have a moderator, Dr. Chongshu Shin from IRRI, who will take us through the panel. The first slide, I can do that from here. Not yet. First slide. Thank you very much. So what I want to do actually is I want to just focus on 3 examples of partnerships that illustrate the range of types of collaborations we have. The first slide here is just really what we've done so far, which is we collaborate with National Agriculture Research Systems, NARS, around the world, also here in Asia-Pacific. As SIP, we've been doing that successfully in many countries in the region to follow really the expansion of potato and sweet potato. The potato coming from Peru originally has been around for over 400 years in Asia. And it's now expanding in the big countries, Asia, India and China, but also in the smaller ones. And we work as SIP in partnership with our national partners, country by country. Now we want to move forward with the partnership models. And one of the newer collaborations worthwhile noting is partnership with the private commercial sector. International potato companies are investing heavily in Asia to develop varieties of potato more suitable to the local conditions, and that means also becoming more subtropical and tropical. Right? Potato overall is moving into the more tropical environments globally, and certainly Asia is driving that. We've been, as SIP, entering into a partnership with the world's largest seed potato producer, HZPC, a company based in the Netherlands. Together, we have developed now tropically adapted potatoes through field-based research in Vietnam. The first 2 varieties have been released, and they are a true offspring, let's say, of the SIP germplasm from Lima, Peru, and the HZPC germplasm from the Netherlands. We both contributed desirable traits that together generated now a fast and early maturing, less than 90 days potato adapted to tropical conditions and suitable both for fresh markets and for processing. Behind that then also a business model. It's a joint venture that contributing financial means and now as we have our products, we are segmenting the target markets in the company, holding exclusive rights in some market segments, and in other markets, in other countries in the region, these potatoes are released as public goods. In both cases, royalties accrue to both parties, and royalties also accrue to the International Treaty on Plant Genetic Resources. For the first time, we believe the CGIAR is contributing financially also to that international treaty and the community around that. It's important to realize that this collaboration started as being sponsored, if you will, by a public sector donor, the Syngenta Foundation and USAID. It has grown out of that dependency and today is solely financed by the commercial partner, right? It's an example of how potato collaboration in this region can have a different pathway from what we have been doing so far in the CGIAR. A second type of collaboration is a regional network for the surveillance and control of late blight, one of the most serious potato diseases worldwide. It was responsible for the Irish potato famine, and wherever potato moves in the world, it's going to follow. We've had now a few years of experience with 14 countries in Asia-Pacific that have joined the Asia Blight Regional Network that is monitoring the spread of the disease and is putting in place measures to contain it and to respond to it. That information that's coming out of that network is then informing national breeding programs and national extension programs. We are linked globally with similar regional networks in Europe, North America, as well as in Latin America. Right? So this is more of a regional public sector research network. And thirdly, looking at some of the bigger countries where SIP and the potato industry is being financed from within the country without international support. We started more than 20 years ago in China with the Center for Asia and Pacific, whose work is mainly so far within China and interacting with the potato industry, networks of universities and public sector research institutes. We are now about to open a similar center in India for South Asia specifically. That includes then also Bangladesh, Bhutan, as we just heard, and Nepal. And the purpose of these centers really is to create hubs of excellence, of scientific research, for breeding of varieties that are well focused on the sub-regional priorities, to exchange expertise and capacities across public and private sector, and to then link the region together around a very efficient sharing of genetic resources and scientific capacities. So this is also a collaboration model, a partnership model that generates excellent science and impacts and also generates an alternative financing modality that will be important in the Asia region going forward. So with that few examples, I would like to hand over to our moderator of this session, Dr. Zhongshuo Xin, the Regional Director of Asia of IRRI. Zhongshuo, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Actually, this is the beginning of the panel 2, the second session of our panel discussion. So the second session of our panel discussion will be focusing on the two keywords. One is strategic investment. The other one is strategic regional collaboration. So we will ask the question to our distinguished panelists, and we can listen to their insight and view on these two keywords. Before I start, so there is a kind of QR code for the Q&A from the audience. And maybe this is the kind of QA. QR code, and then you can just scan it, and then you can just put your question, and then at the end of our session, we will have some kind of time to answer to your questions. Okay, so I will introduce the distinguished panelist. The first, the panelist is he is the principal agriculture and natural resources economist from the ADB. Actually, he was working for OECD before he joined to the ADB in 2019. And also he was working for the Japanese government, MAF, before. And he has PhD in the development economics at the Kennedy School of the Government at Harvard University. Please welcome Dr. Shingo Kimura from the ADB. Is our colleague from IRRI. So he is the Dr. Sudhanshu Singh. He is the director of the IRRI's South Asia Regional Center, we call ISAC in India. So he just brought a lot of the regional cooperation through the ISAC activities to IRRI. So he has full of engagement and the experience about the regional cooperation. Please welcome Dr. Sudhanshu Singh. And next, let me welcome back Simon, back on stage, Director General of International Protection Center, Dr. Simon Black. And our last, the panelist is the very famous, panelist, host of this whole event, Director General of the International Rice Research Institute, IRRI, Dr. Yvonne Pinto. Please welcome. Okay, thank you so much. Actually, we only have 30 minutes, so that's why I'd like to just brief my comment and then try to have more the time for our panelists. We can hear more the insight and opinions. So my first question is to ADB colleague, so Dr. Shingo Kimura. Okay, so what are the current priorities of impact area in the regional agri-food system from the ADB point of view? And how can regional networking contribute to those priority impact areas? That is my question. Please, Dr. Kimura.
Yeah, thank you, John-Soo, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, thanks for your questions, and I'm sure you heard a lot about this 40 billion ambitions by ADB by 2030 this morning, and also CGIAR ADB clearinghouse platform. But just let me a little bit elaborate this, our priority program under these ambitions. We have basically 5 priorities. One is, of course, more traditional agriculture and value chain development to be more sustainable, low carbon, and inclusive. Those are first priority. This is more common to CGIAR agenda. But we have also important priorities on investment in natural capital, which is more kind of long-term base, production base for sustainable agriculture nodes. And also we have third on this management of river basin, integrated management of river basin. That's also one of very important priorities. Similarly, management of coast, fishery, and marine ecosystem. Those are also very important. And lastly, but not least, we are being very much focusing on this mainstreaming nutrition across all the ADB investments. So as you see this, the program, nothing is sector specific, nothing crop specific, and nothing country specific, not even sector specific, not only agriculture. We are looking at very much wide perspective. That's why I think this APAC hub is very, very important for us, and we really value these collaborations with CGI, with for example, IRRI as a window of collaboration. So we have been always repeating that you like to have, these integrated solutions developed in partnership with CG Center. But for us, coordinating with one of this, all the 13 centers is very, very, costly, and transaction costs are high. So we really appreciate this one CGI effort, and we're very happy that the APAC hub is located in Philippines, where the ADB headquarters is located. So that's a very big, good news for us. So that's the kind of my answer to the investment. But now on this more about corporations questions, we have number of regional cooperation mechanisms, sub-regional cooperation mechanisms, such as Greater Mekong sub-regions, Central Asia, and also we have knowledge sharing mechanism of PRC with other development member countries. And of course we do knowledge sharing and training and so on. But what really want to achieve is this additional benefit coming from corporations between countries. For example, all this river basin management, coastal management, you cannot do this in single countries, for example, or single regions. So all this ecosystem interconnected. For example, one of our flagship initiative is the Glacier to Farm initiative, which is we launched last year. So that's really an important example that where all these glaciers in Himalayas is really the source of our waters in the regions, but it's melting. But this issue cannot be solved in only one country. Of course, like upstream country, Bhutan, this Nepal. Of course, they can. They have a prayer role, but also this effort has a lot of benefit downstreams as well. So this is something that only one country can work, and then international organizations such as ADB and IRRI or CGIAR can add value by bringing cooperation, cross-country, cross-regional cooperations. And also we see this issue as more about more landscape approach rather than looking at single sector. So we see a whole interaction with ecosystem along the rivers. And for example, we have supported so many eco-compensation mechanism in the PRC, for example, that the downstream community pay for the upstream community to improve the water quality and resource management. So if those small, not small, but those important policy levers can really add value. And we also see this complementarity of investment in this more like flood risk management, but also including agriculture, or even the logistic infrastructure. All those we see the complementarity with each other, and seek for the higher development impact. So that's something we would like to work with the CG Center through APEC Hub. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kimura. Actually, this is good direction. APEC Hub and the clearinghouse facility are the same direction, and that is will have so very good synergy of that. Thank you very much. And Sudhanshu, my colleague. So I will ask you some practical questions. So can you share some examples where regional collaboration led to the real impactful innovation or policy intervention or policy influence.
Thank you, Jiangsu. Good afternoon. Regional collaboration has really emerged as a very powerful catalyst. Hello? Yeah, the regional collaboration has really emerged as a very powerful catalyst in driving agriculture innovations, influencing policy-driven changes in South Asia, as well as scaling up those innovations to the farmer fields. India's example from South Asia as overcoming the nutritional security as well as food security problem and becoming a net exporter is really a direct example of this regional collaboration between the international network like CGIAR, national system driven by ICR, as well as other collaborators across the region, whether private or international donors. And at the heart of the IRRI's regional strategy for regional changes, I think establishment of IRRI South Asia Regional Center and its work is the heart of those strategy. And I would really like to take example of ISAR as for the innovations what we have delivered. This center was established in 2017-18 with a direct collaboration with Ministry of Agriculture and IRRI with the investment of Ministry. With the aim of innovations in agriculture sector, especially the grain quality and variety development. And if you see the 10 years work, we were really do a lot of good work on innovations. The example I would like to take, one is the speed breeding facility. First of its kind in the world, this high-tech facility has really helped us to have 5 generations of rice in 1 year at the location itself, reducing the practical time of 8 to 10 years of varietal development to practically 3 years in a year. First time in the world, and all this conceptualized and developed locally at Varanasi with this center, with the help of international player as well as the IRRI headquarters scientists working together hand to hand. If you see, not only the time has reduced, but that has provided us a lot of leeway in the agriculture sector in India, with government of India coming in a big way, asking us to develop the similar facilities in 8 to 10 national centers, providing us the full support to guide this establishment of these centers. Even the scientists from Varanasi was involved in creating this facility in headquarters. So that shows, and first of the word rice protocol of speed breeding, named as speed flower, has been published and by the scientists. So those innovations are really driving the global innovations from the locally, even from South Asia or the countries like India, where we were previously following the global innovations and just replicating in our areas. So this is one example. Varietal release by us in the country. 11 varieties in last 10 years is on the top 20 varieties in India seed intent is the IRRI varieties that were developed locally, including climate resilient, the low GI variety released in India, zinc rich varieties, and number of other varieties that has been released. And that's a real innovation that's happening through the center in India and driving the changes all across regions. So this is something about the ISAR, but I would also like to quote some other examples on similar aspects. In terms of policy, like with innovations, the next question was the policy. I would like to take the name of Seed Without Border Agreement. Some of you might be aware, some of you might not be aware. This agreement recognizes the mutual varietal release system. In 2013, India and Bangladesh signed this agreement when there is a need of taking one IRRI flood-tolerant variety, Swarna Savan, to Bangladesh, and the Bangladesh minister realizes that it would take 8 to 10 years of normal routine testing and validation system to get it released in Bangladesh by the national system. She posed a question, why a variety is doing great in one side of the border, can't do the same in the other side of the border? Why it should take 10 years to get it released? And here the genesis of Seed Without Border Agreement, where India and Bangladesh signed in 2013. Later, Nepal also joined. And in 2022, we organized a workshop in Bhutan, where 10 countries have signed, including India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Philippines, Vietnam, Fiji, all those signed. India released 10 varieties from Bangladesh, 2 from Nepal in India within 1 year. Nepal released 3 varieties from India, rice varieties. And then it also includes the other crop and varieties, and I'm happy to share that one of the Bhutan variety, UC Mapi, was released in India for the commercial cultivation. So, and that number of these varieties has really become a mega varieties in a very quick span of time. I would like to take example of APAC project in Assam funded by World Bank, where we got notified this variety of Bina 11 from Bangladesh. Bina stands from Bangladesh Institute of Nuclear Agriculture. Bina 11 is a Saharan Saffron derivative varieties from Bangladesh. And that was doing wonderful in Rangpur division, other side of the fence of Assam. I was working in both areas, so we realized that this variety must do wonder in Assam. Using this seed without water agreement, we got it released in India, in Assam. Within 4 years, within the span of this APAC project, government-funded APAC project, where IRRI SIPS is a part of that fund, within 4 years, it became the #1 variety in Assam in a Boru season. It became a mega variety in Assam. Otherwise, it might have taken 5 to 6 years of normal testing in India to getting it released in Assam. So powerful is this kind of agreement that can bring the policy-driven changes supported by regional collaborations and partners. So these are some examples. Definitely, there is another example of landscape survey. I wanted to quote there. We have driven some with a survey. We realized that with the timely sowing and some of those interventions can really make 8 to 10% of yield increase in UP and Bihar, and that is now being supported by World Bank as a mega project with $60 million of investment to transform the system. That's again a regional collaboration between CG Center and national system has brought the investment of World Bank to really transform the agriculture system of one state. So these are some examples I wanted to share. And so you might have realized that this regional collaboration is not just a framework, but really a force multiplier in the South Asia that has made South Asia, especially India, top exporter in rice and the wheat. So these are the examples, probably can be replicated in other parts of the world also. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, there was a kind of interesting cultural thing between Sudhanshu and myself. He asked me that, do I have some time? I said no. But this gesture in India means yes. So like this. So anyway, it's very interesting, the cultural things. Thank you very much, Sudhanshu. And now we move to the Simone, SIP-DZ. And then I think that I'd like to ask the same question to 2 Director Generals. So first, for the Simone. So how do you envision regional partnerships in enhancing science innovations and police engagement? So that is a question to you, Simone.
All right. Now we'll have a competition here.
Yes.
Just joking. Of course, I think we are talking about these things now for some time, including today, right? We talked about hubs and networks at regional level, and that's all good. I think what I would like to add to that is a bit beyond research, right? We have a lot of research community networks, and that's excellent for us, and it's our comfort zone a bit. But given the world and how it's changing, right, we need to look at additional coalitions and collaborations, including with food industry. I mean, rice, and I don't have to comment on that, is of course a highly commercialized crop. If I look at roots and tuber crops, it's a bit of a mix, right? We have crops like potato, where you have a lot of international investments now in Asia. And the question for us is how do we relate to that? How do we benefit from that? And how do we channel some of that investment towards our kind of impact targets? That's the CGIAR. You saw them presented again by Yvonne, right? Those 5 areas aligned to the SDGs. That's really where we want to be known and where we want to make a dent, and which may not be so much at the forefront of a private company's business plan. But my experience now and my vision, as you ask me, is that we are able to actually link those two, that we are able to mobilize investments in the commercial sector towards our CGIAR type of impact targets. And I would say that's only possible if you have good partnerships at country level, so that national priorities keep us all on the same page, and that we enable regional collaboration between big and smaller countries. I think there were an interesting contribution from Bhutan saying, well, we do have a particular role to play in the region. Although we don't have a big domestic market, we are actually supplying a key technology, in that case seed potato, to the big producing countries in India and Bangladesh. There will be other examples from other commodities. And the question for us as research partners to that is, how do we support that through scientific research and capacity development? That local potato economy or regional potato economy, to come back to that example, has been working for decades. And it's churning out okay results and value. It could be much better, right? If the technical quality of that seed potato, the technical quality of surveillance and certification programs can be improved. So I think that's where I would look as entry points for us as regional research communities, as global partners to the region. Those are the entry points where the economy, the markets are already connecting producers and consumers, and we can support that rather than trying to engineer our own impact pathways again. So that's very important, and our success will depend on that we are really well connected into the national agendas, and that we are able through ADB and other regional mechanisms to connect the different national agendas into a regional one. That's what I would add at this time, right, to the discussions so far today, and I'll hand over to my fellow DG.
Yes, I'd like to just repeat the same questions. How about you, Yvonne? How do you envision regional partnerships in enhancing science innovations and policy engagement?
So thank you so much for another opportunity to speak. And there's always one panelist that shakes it up a bit. So it's my prerogative to try and do that. The three reflections I've heard are that from a policy perspective, the world is changing and the desires of different countries are becoming integrated. And then we heard a perspective that says when you have capability and opportunity, there are opportunities to share that across a single commodity and the wins that that might provide, and the efficiency is by cutting the time shorter to be able to do that really effectively. And then we hear a reflection that is, again, more commodity focused about how you build capability in an ecosystem locally and think about how that can then provide a hub to spearhead change across a region. I would say my reflections are that the world is changing, and what the world needs, and I think that's reflected in many of the conversations we've heard this morning, are integrated opportunities to drive what we might call outcomes that are sought both at a country level and a regional level. Now, those might be something as simple as improved nutrition or better diets. If we focus simply on a single commodity, we are probably going to guide policies around a single commodity. So we may increase opportunities for better nutrition, but we may not be able to strike the best proposition for that country or its population based on its needs. And so when we're formulating strategies, we have to ask ourselves, what is the best combination to be able to deliver the outcomes? And I think that's the way in which the world is changing. We now have an opportunity to combine disciplines. We can look at combining technologies that are available with policies that are available. And we can think about interdisciplinarity so that we are not only creating policies that are about improved production and resilience amongst farmer incomes, but actually we're driving nutritional gains that are specific to the needs of that country. And so we also generally formulate policies in silos, nutritional policies, production policies. So having the opportunity to work across multiple commodities, across multiple countries, for the first time really presents an opportunity to say, how do we combine those kinds of ingredients to drive the best outcomes in a particular country? And I don't think we've had that opportunity before in the CGIAR, and certainly not within economic communities such as ASEAN or Southeast Asia or South Asia, and we now have that opportunity. So what are the instruments that we can use? The clearinghouse facility with the CGIAR is one, the APAC hub is another. It's not going to be solved through single commodities alone anymore. That's not going to deliver the best nutritional propositions, nor is it going to deliver the best climatic resilience propositions, or possibly even the best mitigation propositions. So how do we break the silos down and create the incentives to start thinking about things that may be about driving better outcomes using a different combination of ingredients? And in a way, we also heard today about rice-potato systems that build opportunities for farmers in terms of resilience, that may indeed promote better regenerative opportunities for soil, and that improve food security propositions and income generation propositions. So why stop at rice potato? Why not open it up and ask the question, what are the best combinations that we can propose in any one context? And that, I think, is what this is the beginning of. And you know, Sudhanshu's points about a South Asian regional center mean that within those, once we learn about what are the best propositions, both from a policy perspective and from a choices perspective, we can spread those faster than we normally would. So that is where my mind is at, Jong-soo.
Okay, thank you very much, Yvonne. Okay, so this is just a round of the panel discussion. I think that we have some question from audience. I think it will come. No? Okay, so can you read it? And please tell me what is the title, the question, and to whom, please.
Hello. It's actually anonymous, sir, so let me just read the question briefly. I believe we only have time for one question, so I hope that's all right. I believe this is for DG Yvonne. In what way the CGIAR Asia-Pacific Hub can bring long-term benefits to IRRI, and what terms of engagement are required to upkeep the quality standards in the way it works in the region? Should I repeat the question, ma'am?
Just repeat the last part of that. What something standards? Policy standards.
Mm-hmm. And what terms of engagement are required in the cross-country collaboration strategies to upkeep the quality standards in the way it works in the region?
So I think I've sort of outlined what are the opportunities by saying we don't live in a world where it's simply rice alone. That's the reality of our region, and I would say even at a global level. So if the outcomes we're seeking are simply to improve the production of a commodity because we are driving an export market, then fair enough. IRRI's role in that context may be, it may outweigh the other needs within that context. But if it's about nutrition, then maybe it's not simply delivered by rice alone, in which case, what are the combinations of crops and how can they be distributed within that farming context in that country? And how do we enable the policies to be integrated. Production and nutrition are aligned and conjoined. So I think the quality standards are determined by the country, to be honest. I don't think the CG APAC Hub will have any regulatory authorities about specific standards, but we have to meet the needs of countries within the regulatory environments of those countries.
Back to you, Jong-soo.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Because the limit of the time, so we would like to conclude the panel discussion. And then, so thank you so much again to Shingo, Sudhanshu, Simone, and Yvonne. Thank you very much.
It's a living system, 1 hectare of our field that never stop teaching us how to grow rice better and more sustainability. Yield have gone up and down as affected by the climate change, but they were not collapsed. Why? Because we kept improving. The message quite clear: without updating nutrient management, pest management, replacing old rice varieties, our yield decline. But with the right boom, balanced nutrients, good pest management, and faster variety turnover, we can keep rice yield sustained. Today, the LTCC is more relevant than ever in the face of the climate change, food insecurity, and environmental stress. This 1 hectare field is helping us to identify balanced solutions. It's not just about producing more. It's about building systems that are resilient, efficient, and sustainable, improving nutrient use efficiency, protecting soils, and cutting global warming potential without sacrificing productivity. Genetic and breeding still matter. Heat tolerance, pest resistance, and improving nutrient use efficiency. But that is not just, this is only part of the solution. we need to combine better varieties with good agronomy, real-time monitoring, precise interventions, and AI-powered recommendation. Ladies and gentlemen, now I want to honor the brilliant mind who built and continued LTTCE legacy, from early pioneers like Dr. James and Dr. S.K. Datta to leaders like Ken Cashman, Roland Buresh, and Olivin here. Along with all scientists and staff, past and present, your dedication over 6 decades has made this milestone possible. I also want to thank our partners, donors, UPLB, local community, and farmers. Your trust and continued support drive our efforts to transform rice-based food system for the better. As we celebrate the 183rd crop of the LTCCE, we invite you to join us, partner with us, collaborate with us, and help expand insight from the 1 hectare field to rice systems around the world. Because today, we are not just making a world record, we are planting the seed of a more sustainable, resilient, and secure future for rice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saito. That is truly very inspiring. Thank you very much. Indeed, the LTCC that we are celebrating today doesn't just represent the vision of our IRRI pioneers. It also represents the leadership and scientists that has kept it going through the years. So thank you very much. But to fully appreciate what we are celebrating today, we have prepared a short video where we feature LTCC's history and legacy, featuring several individuals in the past and in the present who had made it possible. Are we ready? Okay.
Since 1962, the Long-Term Continuous Cropping Experiment, or LTCCE, has played a vital role in the International Rice Research Institute's mission to advance sustainable agriculture to feed the world. Through the years, this initiative has helped researchers understand how to sustain rice productivity, improve soil and plant health, and adapt to climate change.
LTCCE started shortly after IRRI was established in the 1960s. Initially, the scientists back then had this vision of determining how much grain yield they can actually extract in a hectare of land. That time, it was called maximum yield experiment. Eventually, it was called long-term continuous cropping experiment.
This critical research was envisioned to evaluate the sustainability of intensive rice cropping systems introduced during the Green Revolution. Through the groundwork laid by IRRI pioneers such as James Mumo and S.K. Datta, LTCCE continues to generate valuable insights into sustainable rice production to this day.
This is an intensification revolution. What is it going to do to soil? What is it going to do to diseases? And so they had the foresight to put in place what was to become very quickly the dominant rice rotation throughout all of the irrigated lowlands of South, Southeast, and Eastern tropical and subtropical Asia.
I was fascinated by that experiment. I'd never seen anything like this before. A plot, a field, where one could grow 3 crops of rice each year and harvest between 15 and 20 tons of grain in a whole year. So, but the fact that we were able to demonstrate, or many other researchers involved, of course, that you can keep a system going for over 60 years at this high level of productivity is something that I think is very unique.
Research work at LTCCE has always been driven by the question, can green revolution technologies such as high-yielding varieties, fertilizer use and irrigation sustain soil fertility and rice productivity under intensive cultivation?
We actually found out after 60 years of doing this long-term experiment that this triple rice cropping system is actually sustainable. When it comes to a point when our farmers had to engage with triple rice cropping system, this intensive rice cropping system, we know that they can do it. It is sustainable, provided that they are given irrigation, high-yielding and pest-tolerant rice varieties, and the best management practices that we can offer, including nutrient management and pest control.
Even the most enduring experiment faces adversity. With a rapidly changing climate, significant challenges continue to threaten the global rice production, and the LTCCE is no exception.
That it's not easy to produce at that high productivity level and keep it up over time, particularly in the wet seasons when you have many factors affecting the performance of your crop, but even in the dry seasons and in the background of climate change that also affected the location of the LTCC at IRRI in the Philippines.
Through adjusting the management practices and regular cultivar replacement in LTCE, we were still able to sustain a high level of annual production in irrigated systems under a changing climate. Our challenge right now is how we can further increase the yield to keep pace with the growing global rice demand.
So how can we sustainably feed the world in the decades ahead? Answers may lie in long-term experiments like the LTCCE, capturing trends of resilience and transformations we could never spot in short-term studies.
Using the long-term experiment is to project what might happen in the future. Record the history. From this you develop the projection what might happen, and for that the scientists have to prepare knowledge and technology to fulfill the future.
Thanks to its unique practice of triple rice cropping each year, today LTCCE sets a world record with the most number of cropping seasons, now with its 183rd crop, a milestone that has not been possible without commitment, partnership, and a shared purpose.
As future rice production is expected to face growing challenges due to climate change and resource scarcity, it is crucial to develop and test innovation that help farmers adapt to changing environment, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and ensure long-term sustainability. These include new high-yielding, climate-resilient rice varieties, improved crop establishment, water-saving technologies, new generation fertilizers, better residue management, and farm diversification options. At the same time, much more remains to be done. Securing continued financial and institutional support is essential in ensuring the continuity of our efforts in driving innovation for sustainable rice cultivation.
Join us as we continue this journey, ensuring that the legacy of LTCCE lives on.
Those are very powerful words coming from our former LTCCE leaders, SK Didata, Ken Kasman, Akim Doberman. Strong words. But I guess everyone here would agree when I say that their passion for this experiment really came through in that video. Now, moving on with our celebration, I'd like to call on one of our most valuable partners whose support for this LTCCE actually reflects what LTCCE stands for. So he is a licensed agricultural engineer with over 26 years of government service. He holds a master's degree in development studies from Erasmus University in Rotterdam and gained his bachelor's degree in agricultural engineering from the University of the Philippines, Las Bañas. Throughout his career at the Department of Agriculture, he has led key initiatives across field operations, agribusiness and marketing, and disaster risk reduction, making him a vital contributor to strengthening the resilience of Filipino farmers. As Program Director of the National Organic Agriculture Program and former OIC Director of Field Operations, he worked extensively on rehabilitation programs for farmers affected by calamities. In March 2024, he was appointed Undersecretary for the Masagana Rice Industry Development Program, where he continues to champion sustainable, inclusive, climate-resilient rice sector development. Ladies and gentlemen, our DA's Undersecretary for Rice Industry Development, Engineer Christopher V. Morales.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hindi sasawa sa akin. Anyway, good afternoon to everyone, to our good friend, IRRI DG Dr. Ibon Pinto, to members of the Board of Trustees, my good friend Janelle, esteemed guests, scientists, and partners in innovation. On behalf of the Philippine Department of Agriculture, I extend my heartfelt congratulations to IRRI for the remarkable milestone of its long-term continuous cropping experiment, or LTCCE. Achieving the world record status as the longest-running experiment with the most number of cropping seasons is no small feat, and it deserves global recognition. We take immense pride in being the host country of IRRI for the past 65 years. Even more so, we are honored that this historic and globally significant site stands in Los Baños, Laguna, continuing to pioneer innovations that support farmers not only in the Philippines but across Asia, Africa, and beyond. IRRI remains one of our most steadfast partners in advancing the rice sector. Through the LTCCE, we have gained invaluable insights that have translated into real improvements in farmers' yields, even amid the mounting challenges of climate change. The relevance of LTCCE grows even more evident as we confront the realities of rice farming in the Philippines. On average, Filipino farmers manage rice fields about 1.3 hectares in size, comparable to the LTCCE plots, and yield around 4 metric tons of rice per hectare. Yet, LTCCE proves that with optimized resource use and refined management practices, these same areas can sustain even greater productivity over time. Currently, only 73% of our 4.65 million hectares of rice land is irrigated. This statistic challenges us to go further, reaching more farmlands and maximizing their potential through innovation and sound policy. As one of the countries most vulnerable to climate change, we deeply value the long-term data and insights from LTCCE. The findings are clear and concerning. A mere 1% increase in minimum temperature or 1 degree increase in minimum temperature during growing season can lead to about 10% decline in rice yields. With temperatures continuing to rise in the Philippines over the past 6 decades and projected to increase further, this research is not just relevant, it is urgent. Reflecting on the work that started in the 1960s, we recognize how invaluable this long-standing body of evidence has been in shaping our policies and strategies for a more food-secure and climate-resilient future. This milestone is not only a celebration, but also a call to action to deepen our collaboration and double down on efforts that advance sustainable rice-based systems. To IRRI, you have our full support in continuing this legacy. We stand with you now and into the future. Congratulations to all the scientists, researchers, farm technicians, donors, stakeholders, and every individual who has contributed to this historic achievement. Thank you and mabuhay.
Thank you, sir. Those are very encouraging words. Your support is very valuable for us to be able to continue this legacy in the years to come. Thank you. So now, as we continue with our program, I would like to invite you to step out of the building and see the long-term continuous cropping experiment with its 183rd crop, and commemorate how this scientific milestone by unveiling its marker. Ushers, please assist. So please follow our ushers going to the site.